Two guys either side of 50 with one dream to achieve middle-aged sporting glory. This is the Missing Links Golf Show. Pilgrims, Andy Walker, everybody, welcome back to the Missing Links Golf Show. I'm Steve Hinks, and I am particularly excited about tonight's episode. Andy Walker, any views?
Yeah. It's we had a really good chat to someone who I had a little bit to do with a couple of weeks ago, and we have talked a couple of times about club fitting and
Club fitting.
I had a Titleist club fitting a couple of weeks back, which we have briefly mentioned, and we caught up with the club fitter Jason Butt, had a really good conversation about all things club fitting. So really good chat, and probably we'll listen to it a couple of times. I reckon he's a really interesting guy, and he's got a lot of knowledge and a lot of information there, which is really worthwhile.
It's very cool, and I think I've had a couple of conversations with a few pilgrims, a little bit of a sneak peek of the fact that we were having a Titleist rep, a club fitter, an equipment expert, and a fellow golf nerd on the show. I think there's a lot of people that will be super excited about this.
You can really geek out on this sort of stuff.
Yeah, and I, told my beautiful wife about the fact that we were talking about a very technical episode of golf equipment, and she couldn't have been more less excited about it. But yes. That's not specifically our target market. My beautiful wife is a non-golfer. But I think for all the golfers out there, this is always a topic of interest. There's so much to learn, so much to know. And definitely for people who've been umming and ahhing, do I want a fitting? Should I get a fitting? Shouldn't I get a fitting? Am I good enough for a fitting? Am I consistent enough for a fitting? Are fittings expensive? All of those sorts of myths and questions, Jason busts them beautifully. So it's definitely a good chat.
And it's also, I think, something that anyone can get a huge amount of value from. It's not just someone, it's very data driven, but you don't have to know a lot about data to be able to get a huge amount out of club fitting. And we talked to Jason about that as well. Rather than sort of too many spoilers, I think maybe we should just get into it and listen to the interview.
Sounds good to me, Andy Walker, and it sounds to me like you're saying that's enough from now, us. Let's go to a few hours ago, us, with special guest Jason Butt.
Your men's intuition is working exceptionally well.
Remarkable. See you on the flip side, peeps. Andy Walker, exciting moment in the history of the Missing Links Golf Show. I am going to give you the honour of introducing this guest because this is someone that you might have spent just a little bit of time with recently. So,
I briefly mentioned it last week in that I did go and get a club fitting. Had an amazing time. I know it's something we've talked about for a little while now, and it's something that we talked about. I'd lost some confidence with my driver fairway, and I also wanted to explore getting a hybrid and seeing what that looked like, because I hadn't actually ever used a hybrid before. So I booked in to Thornley Golf Centre, which is a pretty amazing centre, I have to admit.
I've heard only good things. Good things.
I booked into a Titleist fitting day with a gentleman by the name of Jason Butt, who I just had the best time with him. It was a really, really interesting experience, and something I really enjoyed. Got a lot out of it. He's got a depth of knowledge that I really valued, and I'd like to introduce to the podcast Jason Butt. How you going, mate?
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me, Andy and Steve. It's pleasure to be a part of the podcast.
So as I was saying, you're a Titleist fitter. So just maybe tell us a little bit about your background, sort of where you've come from, what your experience in golf is, and what actually brought you through to make the decision to become a Titleist golf club fitter.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I've lived on the Central Coast my whole life, based out of Woongarra, which is, it's about 15 minutes, 20 minutes from the coast. I started playing golf at Toukley Golf Club, progressed into Magenta Shores about 15 years ago. So sort of was an amateur golfer out there. Would have been 2014. I took on a role as a trainee professional at Wyong Golf Club. So I started that. That was a 3-year process. I've always sort of wanted to scratch the itch of going out there and playing competitively against, obviously high-level golfers and see where my game was at, and figured out after about 18 months that it wasn't for me. I mean, I felt like I was playing some reasonable golf, but certainly not quite at the level to make a living out of it. So from there, it took me back into Wyong Golf Club, where I was the assistant professional. That took me there for about 2 years. And then at the start of 2021, a job opportunity came up at Titleist as the fitting specialist in New South Wales. So I would be a second addition to the team that was already having one full-time fitter. So 2021 moved from being at Wyong Golf Club as the assistant professional to what has now been a bit over 3 years fitting for Titleist 5 days a week in New South Wales. So it's been a whirlwind. It certainly was an interesting time to start doing something like club fitting in obviously what was the start of kind of the pandemic. But it's been a really good time. They're a fantastic company to work for, and I feel like I've been able to be around a lot of good people, and it's a really cool job. Obviously, spending time with really dedicated golfers like yourself, Andy.
Yeah, and look, it seems to me I've given it sort of a little bit of thought about sort of your typical day, and I would assume it gives you a lot of satisfaction to be able to help someone out who may be struggling with their golf clubs. Similar to me, I've never been fit before. Lost a bit of confidence with some of their clubs, and to actually go through that process of helping get the right clubs for them in order for them to improve their game. I mean, I mentioned in my text message I went out and shot 2 under the first time I played with the new Titleist.
Are we going to talk about this again? Like this is now this is 4 episodes in a row.
Take it while you can.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. So it's still my last round. So say you're only as good as your last round. That was my last round. So it must give you a lot of satisfaction to be able to go through that process with someone.
Absolutely, yeah. While I was as the assistant professional at Wyong, I did quite a lot of teaching, and the teaching people to get better and seeing that in person, and then also sort of fitting golf clubs to people to make them play better, sort of correlated, and sort of was part of the reason why I thought I would enjoy the role. And absolutely, being able to turn up to work every day, and I mean, your goal is to try to help people. And there's times where we get to the end of the fitting, we say, hey, you know what you've got is still working pretty well. But there's also a lot of times that we get to the end of the fitting, say, hey, you know what we've done with what we've been able to suggest in the hour has been really good as well. So they're definitely really rewarding to get through most days to see people happy and see good results.
So do you have a standard process that you go through with club fitting, or is it just you sort of meet the person you're fitting and just go with whatever the fitting leads?
Yeah, it's definitely a case by case situation. There's definitely a process that we go through from. I mean, with a driver fitting, we'll go through the correct head that suits that play with their delivery. Would then go through what loft is going to help them, and then shaft length and flex of weight, that sort of thing. So there's definitely a process we go through from driver, fairway, hybrid iron, and wedges, and they all sort of look a little different, I guess, in terms of people listening. If they wanted to find that out, it'd probably be something to actually spend on the fitting tee and find out for them what that looks like in that sort of space. But yeah, in terms of my process, it's about finding out what the golfer wants to get out of the session. That's probably number one, and having that 5-10 minute conversation when we first meet them is really important because it sort of sets up the hour and sets up what we're going to actually get out of the session. So yeah, definitely finding out what they want to get out of it, trying to meet that need by obviously going through our process, and hopefully by the time we get through our process, we've got a good result. But it's definitely a case by case, and yeah, it's up to the golfer of what they want to get out of it.
Now, Jace, I do want to get into the details of the club fitting in just a moment, but I'm also interested in sort of your thoughts on this. I know that you are a brand-specific fitter, and I think this is an interesting sort of discussion topic because, like, I'm brand agnostic personally, so I don't really mind. Like in my bag, I've got Ping driver, Ping fairway, TaylorMade hybrid, Callaway irons, Cleveland wedges, and a Cleveland putter. So I'm a bit all over the shop, and that was based on doing a fitting process with the pro at my local club that we kind of ended up with a whole variety of different things, but not the wedges and the putter. They're old, and we'll talk about that a bit later. I'm interested though. You've picked Titleist to work for rather than potentially fitting clubs from a variety of backgrounds. Now, is this because it's a brand that you specifically believe in? I mean, I know that the sort of the culture of Titleist is just to help golfers get better. Is that sort of the ethos of the company and a reason for choosing Titleist potentially over other brands? Give me the chance to pitch your brand here, mate.
Yeah, I mean, I've played Titleist from as long as I can remember. As in when I was sort of an amateur turning into the trainee ranks. They have a really good system with what is called now the associate program, but the trainee program when I started my time, where we would sort of, I guess, have an agreement to play a certain amount of Titleist clubs, and I've been playing them for a long period of time, and actually I have a really good relationship with who is the Titleist account manager. So he would call on the club, and I had a really good relationship with him. I knew some other people within the company, and I never met somebody that I didn't like that worked for the company. And I think that was a big part as to why I wanted to sort of see what it looked like. It was correlated with things that I was doing, and speaking to him, the account manager, and some of the other guys in the team, it's a big part of why I think the culture within the company is so good. But yeah, that was definitely a big part of it. One, it was something I was definitely interested in, and number two was they're just a really, really good company to work for.
No, it sounds that way. I've not heard anyone that's had anything to do with the organisation say a bad word about it, and I'm now feeling guilty that I don't play more Titleist equipment in my bag. So
yeah, I'm the loyalist here, Jason.
Yes, might take the conversation in another way, which sounds like it's going to get expensive for me. But anyway, that's okay. That's okay. Coming back to the topic of fittings, I think for a lot of people, might feel a bit anxious about it, a bit scared about it for a variety of reasons. There's a lot of myths out there about club fittings. So probably I'm interested to explore a little bit of that. Like for someone who's never had a fitting before, just bought their clubs off the rack, what can they expect in the process when they turn up and meet someone like you on the fitting tee? And, sort of what are some of the things that they might get as a benefit as a result?
Yeah, I think with every golfer that turns up to the tee, I'd like to think that by the end of the hour, they walk away learning something. So whether it's something about how they're swinging the club, or whether it's something about, hey, there's a lot of the times we look at gapping in their bags and potentially where something could be a little bit better that we can kind of identify on the fitting tee that they mightn't have realized when they were walking in there to start the session. There's definitely something I would say that for every golfer, that if they come in, we can say, okay, what's going on with their bag? We just ask a lot of questions and try to find out, hey, is this doing what it should do? And if it isn't, can we make it better? And a lot of the times, when we go through that process, whether it's a wedge fitting, figuring out whether somebody's grooves are too worn, or whether it's their 3 and 4 iron carry the same distance and the 3 iron's more inconsistent and a hybrid works better. It kind of comes down to the player and what they do. But I would definitely say if somebody was interested or curious or just hadn't done it before, to just, book in to a session and we can go through the process. And I guess at the end of the day, hopefully you can walk away learning something and we can, just try to help you play better golf at the end of the day.
I think one of the things that you mentioned there, Jason, that really helped me, and I had sort of an idea of this as I was coming in, but the gapping between your clubs, I think, is really important. I mean, my old sort of TaylorMades, the driver and the fairway, there wasn't too much difference between the two. There might have been about sort of 20 meters difference, maybe not even that. But going through the process of hitting drivers, and then we went to the 3 fairway, but then your suggestion was, no, let's go to the 4 fairway to see how that looks, just to see how the gapping works. And I hadn't even considered going to a 4 fairway. I was always sort of driver and 3 fairway. So that for me was like a real eye opener. And then again with the going down to the trialing a hybrid, which we figured out pretty quickly didn't work that well. And coming up with the utility iron, which I just love that club. It's a brilliant club. I just found that to be a really, one of the highlights of the session. So I'd assume that, anyone could get benefit out of just that gapping.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We definitely look at the top end of the bag as a really big opportunity to be able to see if the gaps are right and if they are doing what they should do. I mean, in short, we kind of look in iron fitting as each golf club should move in 5 miles of ball speed. And when that ball speed separates by 5 miles, we look to see 10, 12 meters of carry distance between each club. And for a lot of players, I mean, we sort of start with either 7 iron or driver, and start at the 7 iron kind of get you to progressively hit up and up and up from that iron model and figure out, okay, is there a point where that iron breaks down? And is there a point where, okay, well, all of a sudden these clubs are now too close together or they're too far apart? And it's definitely something that, we obviously found it with yourself that a 4 would work better than a 3 would, and that's not uncommon. I mean, the golf ball, I guess, over the years has progressively spun a little bit less and the equipment spins a little bit less. So in order to get the ball to maintain spin or to be the right club for you, sometimes a 4 wood works better. It's cool to be able to go through that process with people. I mean, that's one thing for me. I sort of do it 5 days a week and have been doing it now for 3 years. But for people that have never done it before, it's good fun.
Yeah. And with someone who is a better golfer who's got a bit of an understanding of metrics, because you can, with the TrackMan equipment that you use, you can really geek out on a lot of the metrics that you've got there. What are you looking at? What are the main metrics that you're looking at when you're fitting someone?
Good question. It's I mean, there's a few. I sort of try to keep it to about 6 as maximum as what I would kind of look at in terms of main tiles that I would see. I guess rule number one in fitting is what is going to help the player hit the center of the face. So whatever that is kind of number one. And once you kind of tick that box, it's like, okay, is the launch where you need it? Is the height where you need it? And is the landing angle when you need it? I mean, Titleist has a really good philosophy with fitting where it's, okay, how can we help you distance control? How can we help your descent angle, which is the way the ball lands into the green or down to a particular target? And how can we improve your dispersion pattern? And so if you can do one of those 3 things or all 3 of those 3 things, you're definitely going to help them play better. Launch, spin, I mean, one of the things that I think is something that people aren't aware of is that each golf club in your bag should fly at about the same height. So a 7 iron should fly at whatever height it is for that player. And we kind of want them to test the 5, 4, 3 and figure out, okay, does that club start to all of a sudden drop down in height? And if it starts dropping down in height, then the carry is going to be decreasing and all of a sudden you're going to get 2 clubs overlapping. So that's one thing that I think people probably don't realize is that if you were looking side on from a PGA to a driving range, you'd probably see a lot of the guys that would be hitting their 4-iron, 3-iron as high as they are their pitching wedge and sand wedge. So it's quite interesting when you sort of look right into it.
Okay, so then obviously then the apex of each particular iron is just sort of a bit further than as you get into your lower irons, I'm assuming.
Apex height, yeah. So the apex height, we're trying to maintain it. So I'm going to give you an example. If I'm seeing somebody on the fitting tee that's hitting their 7-iron 30 meters in the air, for example, and it's landing at 48 degrees, that would be a really efficient kind of number for a 7-iron. So we kind of want to work into the longer irons, and from there we'd want to kind of maintain that 30-meter height so that we can kind of maintain our landing angle. And yeah, that's kind of something that we look at a lot of the time to see if that club's performing as well as what it was in the 7-iron in the long iron. And a lot of the times, if we fit a player into a more traditional shape in, say, a T100 iron, then sometimes a T200 will work better in a long iron. And that's because it's a bigger head. It's going to help them create a slightly higher flight. And as I said before, it's try to keep that ball speed separation between each club so that the carries, moving in between that 10, 12 meters difference between each club.
This was something actually when I did my fitting that was really interesting to learn about, because I kind of went into it obviously with the driver fitting. I was expecting I was going to gain some distance with the driver, which I did, and that was good. But obviously dispersion was also important. But with the irons, what I didn't realise was how important that descent angle really is in terms of stopping power on greens and control of the ball and all of the benefits that come with it. But what I also learned during it, which I'm interested in your thoughts, was it wasn't just about the club head, but it was also about the shaft that was being used. And we mucked around with a few different shafts with the same club head and saw some different results in terms of launch angle, apex, and descent angle as well. So from your point of view, kind of how much is the head, how much is the shaft, and what's the importance of getting the right combination?
Yeah, another great question. Yeah, it's I kind of describe it as the head's the engine of the golf club and the shaft's the transmission. So you kind of need to get them both right. The easiest way to get a golf ball to fly through a slightly different window would be changing the iron model. So the head would be a big driver as to how we would particularly change a launch and spin characteristic of a golf ball if we were wanting to do that. The shaft is that timing device that if you get it wrong, it's fair chance it's not going to feel great, and fair chance you're not going to hit the center of the face, and dispersion is not going to be great. Mm-hmm. There's times where we'll need to test more iron models than what we do shaft models, and there's times where we'll get the head right pretty quickly, and the player might want to test different shafts, and we obviously have a very wide variety of shaft options that we can test. So it's player dependent. Sometimes a player will walk in with something that they've been using for a period of time, and sometimes it's a matter of, hey, I really like the feel and I like what this does. So we're just changing the head and updating everything in that space, and the shaft's still working really well. But yeah, I definitely think they're both very, very important. They go hand in hand. You have to make the timing device, which is the shaft, right for that player. And then obviously, like I said, you want it to create that sort of launch and spin and descent, which is what that head can certainly do.
Yeah, and just to get a bit nerdy on the whole shaft debate, so we had a conversation about the different kick points in the shaft. This is probably more relevant to driver shaft than, but I don't know, maybe not. But lower kick point, higher kick point, what that does for ball flight, along with just stiffness and weight, but also just the characteristics of the way that the shaft bends and kicks. Can you shed any light on that in a way that might make more sense than what I will for our pilgrims?
Yeah. Kick point just means that, like, what part of the shaft flexes the most. So basically, at speed, a low kick point shaft will kick a little bit more and effectively launch the ball a little bit higher. So if a player is playing a higher kick point shaft, then we were trying to make the ball fly higher. Typically, one of the things we would go to test would be a lower kick point shaft to try to maintain the height or to get the ball to fly higher. It's not the case for everybody. Sometimes a different kick point shaft, although it may say it will go higher, doesn't always happen that way, because it might change the feel for that player and they might all of a sudden de-loft it more because it feels differently and it might fly lower. So it doesn't always work that way. But typically when we're trying to say, okay, well, if it's a high speed player and they're already hitting it really high, then they'll need a high kick point shaft so that it launches a little bit lower. And then, yeah, obviously mid and low relative to what the player wants. It's at the end of the day, if a player is trying to get the ball to fly higher, they would play a lower kick point shaft to try to, keep the loft on the club and get the ball launching higher. And that's sort of what we would look for in that space.
Mm. Now, I've got one more question about your fitting here, Andy Walker, because I think this is important for the Pilgrims to hear all about it. Early in our episodes in this show, Jason, I may or may not have vehemently told Andy Walker that he needed a driver fitting. The poor guy couldn't find a fairway, snap hooking them left, right and centre. Can you spill the tea on just how badly suited his original driver, and I won't disparage any brand names with this, but just how badly suited his original piece of equipment.
I think we all know what brand I'll be using.
We do. Just how far off he was.
I recall seeing the improvements from what we did on the tee with Andy, and I was pretty confident at the end of that one, saying, "Hey, you know what? This driver's going to be better than what you got." And I think that's the case. I don't know how many rounds, Andy, have you had under your belt since we've done our last fitting? I know that the last round was 2 under, but how many rounds have you had since then?
Well, I haven't had any since then, to be honest with you. I played, and credit to Titleist and to Thornley Golf Centre, because initially they were saying that usually lead times are sort of around about 4 weeks, and I got the clubs sort of just over a week. Like, it was really, really quick, and I was really impressed with just with the speed with which they were delivered. But I actually grabbed them on my way down to. I went down to Mollymook over the Anzac Day long weekend and had a round of golf at Mollymook. So I had 5 over at Mollymook, which Mollymook's not an easy golf course. So I was and look, I hit it okay. Sort of first time out with the driver and fairway and utility iron. But yeah, then I came back to my home club, and that's when it all really clicked into gear.
Nice. Yeah. I do recall though that process that we went through. It was one that we definitely saw some better launch and spin characteristics. And as soon as you see the ball speed change and go faster, normally you will see the ball go a little further. So, it was one that I recall. Obviously, we had a great session together. I recall it very vividly. And, we saw some improvements with what you had, that's for sure.
So I'm going to say you're welcome, Andy Walker. You're welcome.
But it wasn't also just like the with the driver. So I went with the TSR3, but when we were playing around with the shafts, I think initially we were playing with a standard length, extra stiff shaft. And then we went to a stiff standard length shaft. But then you recommended that I go half an inch shorter, which ended up being the shaft that I went with, and that also made a huge difference. Which I'd never coming into the session, I'd never even considered shaft length to be important in a driver fitting. Yeah,
it's arguably one of the most important fittings in terms of the length of the golf club. Absolutely, it's one that we see a lot of times where a player will actually gain distance when we go to a shorter shaft because their efficiency gets better. They start finding the center of the face more often, and everything from ball speed to launch and spin gets better. So I think people have this philosophy that I need the shaft to be a little bit longer so that I can create more speed, but it doesn't always work out to be that means more distance. You're always trying to figure out, and that's what we would have done in the sense of, okay, well, does a shorter shaft help you hit the center of the face more often? And if that is the case, is it more efficient than a longer shaft? And for you, that was the case. So, it's definitely one that's overlooked, and shaft length for all golf clubs is really, really important.
So does this mean that we should all buy ourselves a hacksaw and get out in the garage and chop a half inch off the end of the driver shaft? Is that what you're suggesting there, Jess?
Not for everybody. Yeah, it's case by case. It's definitely one that I'd like to see the person in front of me to make that recommendation. But definitely see with a lot of players, I mean, I would have to double check the actual 2024 stats, but I know that of late, I think it was a couple of years ago, the statistic was the average PGA Tour driver length for Titleist golf clubs was 44 3/4 of an inch, which is 3/4 of an inch shorter than standard length. So that is for Titleist clubs, and yeah, I mean, these guys are the best drivers in the world, and they're playing their driver shafts a little shorter than standard length. So yeah, just goes to show that there's probably something in that.
Definitely. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to sort of the next sort of step that I take, which is my irons. I mean, I've got the AP2s at the moment, but I'm definitely keen to come back at some point and have a look at irons. I really like the look of and whether the T150s are the club that would suit me, but certainly I really like the look of the T150s. So that'll probably be my next step. And then as Steve sort of, I know he wants to get a wedge and perhaps putter fitting, maybe ball fitting, and that'll be certainly on the cards for me as well, because I find that so I've got Vokey wedges, but they've got a lot of bounce. So I've got 12 degrees bounce on both I've got a 54 and 58. And the reason why I got those a number of years ago, and the reason why I did, was because my chipping and putting was pretty ordinary. So certainly from a chipping perspective, I was doing some reading when I bought them, and the recommendation was more bounce means easier. So I bought just the maximum bounce that I possibly could. But yeah, I'd certainly like to go through the process with the wedge fitting as well. So maybe let's sort of, have a chat about wedge fitting and what's involved with wedge fitting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I guess number one is, figure out what your pitching wedge loft is, because nowadays iron models have different lofts of pitching wedges, and then figure out what you want your most lofted wedge to be, whether that's a 60 or a 58. And then kind of figure out what's the best 4 to 6 degrees of loft separation between your wedges to be able to create consistent carry numbers. So once you kind of figure out, okay, where does that lead you? What sort of lofts should you be looking at? You would then go through what we call a grind testing process. And we call it a blind test because there is a lot of different grinds in a 60-degree wedge. And if we go through it and we really explain to you, hey, this is a high bounce wedge, it's probably going to do this, let's hit this, and then you hit it and it does the exact opposite. Well, that's not great. So we would go through the process of a blind test where I would get out all 5 stock 60-degree wedges, and I would hand you the grip, and I would say, just hit it. Hit some shots the way that you normally do out there on the golf course, whether that be with an open face, a square face, whatever that is, and kind of hitting 4 to 6 shots with each grind, and kind of figuring out, okay, with how you deliver the wedge, what grind works best. And then from there, you can kind of go through it almost like a trial and error period of, okay, well, hey, maybe a K grind, which is a high bounce 60-degree, doesn't work as well as an M grind, which is 8 degrees of bounce. And you can kind of figure that out. And the more shots you hit, the more you'll be able to identify what's right and what's wrong. And definitely looking at, where do you play your golf? Do you play your golf? For you, it's Coimbra waters, so the conditions can get a little tighter, a little firmer. Not at the moment, we've got a bit of rain. But
it's been closed for a little while.
yeah. But typically, what sort of conditions are you playing in? How do you deliver the wedge, and when does that kind of lead you to, okay, well, this is going to be the best grind for you? And obviously myself and the other fitters for the company, we're fortunate to do it quite often, that we can, okay, well, feeling that this recommendation of this grind is going to work best for X, Y, or Z. And yeah, so the wedge fitting process is really about blind testing the wedges. Hey, you just hit them, I'll hand them to you, I'll know what they are, and then by the end of it, you're just saying, hey, I think that third wedge felt really good. And if whatever that is the right wedge. It doesn't matter whether that's high, mid, or low, or what grind is going to work best. It's just about, hey, once we've tested those options, what worked best, and we'll tell you what the grind is at the end.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think, like, for me, this is a really intriguing topic, because I couldn't even tell you what the bounce is on my 3 wedges. They were bought at different times. So I play a 48, 52, 56, because my pitching wedges are 44 and a half, I think, or 44 degree in the Callaway Apex. but I actually don't really know what they are. I bought the 3 wedges at different times. They're all Cleveland, but they're different models because different year models of Cleveland. And I've got to admit my 56 is probably verging on 15 years old now, so it might need a refresh. But the point that you make about where you play your golf, like how important is the bounce or the grind variation for the type of grass that you play on? I mean, you hear this talked about in the PGA Tour commentary a fair bit when they're playing on Bermuda versus Cooch versus Kikuyu or other types of grasses. Like, how big a difference does that make?
Yeah, it definitely makes a difference for sure. I mean, I think at the end of the day, most players will deliver the wedge pretty much the same, whether they're playing on Kikuyu or Cooch. Typically, their delivery will be quite similar. But yeah, definitely you would see players that are playing at, say, British Open or somewhere where the conditions get a lot firmer, a lot faster. That's when they'll look to change out their wedges. And I think for the guy that's playing sort of on a typical kind of once or twice a week, whatever it may be, I think if you can find the grind that works best for you, that would be the one that I would stick with. And a lot of the times, it's not always the case, but if we can give you a sand and a lob wedge that play with 2 different grinds or 2 different bounce options, I mean, when conditions get a little bit softer and a little bit, say, hey, I might need something that's going to play with a little bit more bounce, well, maybe the sand wedge is that option that we give you something with a bit more bounce. And then when the conditions get a little firmer, a little bit faster, we give you a lob wedge with a little bit less bounce. And then all of a sudden you've got 2 different tools in your bag that you can lean on depending on where you're playing your golf. So yeah, playing, say, it's for me, for example, playing my golf at Wyong Golf Club and then at Magenta Shores, they're 2 very different grasses. One's Kikuyu and quite soft, and Magenta Shores is quite firm and quite fast. So yeah, I play my setup exactly that way because at Magenta I lean on my 60 quite a bit with the conditions, but yeah, around Wyong where it's a bit softer, something with a bit more bounce, my sand wedge works really well.
And what impact does that make out of bunkers? Less bounce, more bounce? Any differences?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, the softer the sand and the finer the sand, typically something with more bounce works better. So beach sand, where I play my golf, it requires something with bounce because otherwise it's going to drive down into the sand and want to dig and be really difficult to work through. Almost feel like quite slow through the hit versus somewhere that's a little bit more compact, or you play golf where it's been raining for a period of time and the bunkers are quite firm. Yeah, something with a little bit less bounce typically will work better for sure. That's kind of back to my point of if you have something where you have 2 different options, it's not a bad thing, so that you can kind of lean on that way. I don't think it's overly practical to have 4 60-degree wedges and of a Saturday kind of figure out what you want to kind of lean on. I think if you can have the wedge initially set up so that it kind of lets you play all the shots, then yeah, that's a really good way to think of it.
So is that pretty common, say with PGA Tour players having different options in their bag? So they might have like a 6 or 8 degree bounce, in their gap wedge, and then in their 6-degree wedge and in their flop wedge, they'll have something a bit higher. Is that what usually the setup that they've got?
The best person to ask the actual statistics on that one. I mean, we're actually fortunate to be on a call with Aaron Dill, who's the guy that runs through all the Vokey wedge stuff with the PGA Tour guys. I know that there was that sort of question was asked. I know that I think it was Cam Smith, Justin Thomas, they both carry 2 different 60-degree wedges to each tournament. There's some players that carry 4 60-degree wedges to each tournament. Wow. And would pick it based on that kind of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday prep. That would be a part of it. But in terms of the actual sand and lob wedge of the actual people that do, I know that they do exactly that, but how many people do it? I probably have to ask someone above me for that one, someone like an Aaron Dill that obviously deals with that space on tour. I'm not sure of the answer of that one.
I love that you just slide into I was just on a call with Aaron Dill, he's the guy that does the wedge fittings for all the PGA Tour pros. It's one of the things we love about the Missing Links Golf Show, the types of 6 degrees of separation that we get. Have you, on that topic, have you ever actually met the great man, Bob Vokey?
very, very fortunate that February of last year we got flown over to Carlsbad, myself and the ANZ Titleist team. We got flown over and spent 5 days over in Carlsbad. So we have our TPI facility, which is an unbelievable facility. It's
Awesome.
basically the headquarters of fitting for Titleist, and it's incredible. One of the days there, we got very lucky to be able to spend. We got to spend about an hour or two with Bob Bokey, where we got to ask him a bunch of questions and just kind of pick his brain and it's things like that. To know that you're going over there to work for it's pretty gosh darn cool.
That's amazing.
So we got to spend some time with him, and there's 3 fitters that fit out of that facility. We spent a bunch of time with them, and they're just very, very knowledgeable. And anytime we really want to go in depth into that sort of fitting space, we can touch base with them. It's really cool.
Was Scotty Cameron there as well by any chance?
He wasn't, mate. No, we got to go to the Scotty Cameron gallery, but from what I hear, he's a hard man to get a hold of. So we never got to spend any time with him. No. To spend time with Bob Bokey, that was pretty cool.
No, that's awesome. That's it. Like, what did you get from him? Were there any pearls of wisdom that he kind of shared about the way that he designs the wedges that you maybe didn't already know?
Good question. Probably something that I should have thought about before the.
I'm putting you on the spot. Putting you on the spot.
Putting me on the spot for sure.
Yeah, this is hard-hitting journalism here, Jason. This is what we do.
It is.
Yeah,
it is, right?
Yeah.
I want to say, in terms of, the team here in ANZ, we're very lucky that we have guys that, they're really, really good at educating us when we launch new product. Any questions we have, we can ask. So in terms of learning stuff that we didn't know from product side of things, I don't think we spent enough time with him to go down that pathway. I think it was more about asking stories about Sebi Ballesteros and.
All right, now you're talking. Hit me with some of this.
Questions as to who his top 5 players that he's seen and that sort of stuff. And it was more about the history of what he did and how he got there and that sort of stuff, as opposed to we're going to learn some stuff about SM10, which is our latest wedge. But we got to ask a bunch of questions like that. I'll have to try to retrain my memory and get back in touch with you guys to run through what that hour looks like. I can assure you it went very quick.
Oh, I can imagine it would. Like that, honestly, that's Disneyland for golfers to be able to go and do something like that. That's just phenomenal. Really, really cool. Really cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah.
So then, Jason, what about when you get onto the next part of the game, get onto the green? So putters and balls. What's the process of going through a putter and ball fitting? I've always used the Pro V1. However, I have considered moving across to the Pro V1X. So is that something that what does it look like when it comes to a fitting?
I just need to call you out on this for a moment, Andy Walker. You're saying you've always used the Pro V1. I recall a period in your career when you were floating around with a Srixon Z Star.
That was a very, very long time ago. I'm talking about. Yeah, look, a good point. But look, I'm talking about sort of when I was playing, competitive golf rather than and to be honest with you, I wasn't 30 years ago I wasn't playing a Pro V1 because Pro V1s weren't around. I was using a 90 compression Titleist Bellata to be honest with you. So if we're going to sort of go into details, I guess I've got to
okay, I'll let you off. That's fine.
Yeah. But in probably last 5 years I've been using a Pro V1, right? But I have considered because the Pro V1 and the Pro V1X they've changed a bit, haven't they?
They have, yeah. We sort of talk when we do ball fittings. We talk sort of 3 main characteristics, which is flight, spin, and feel. And depending on the player and what they're trying to get out of it is I guess where we would go with that. They did change. They used to be Pro V1 used to be a slightly higher flighting golf ball and different spin to Pro V1X, where it's now the opposite. So I guess in terms of a ball fitting, we would start with a Pro V1 it's our flagship type golf ball and it's kind of optimal for all 3 of those categories. So we'd start there and kind of see how it works. I know that the team in Melbourne, we've just started introducing some indoor ball fitting days where we'll use a RCT golf ball, which is a Pro V1, Pro V1X, and AVX golf ball that's designed to be indoors and struck and be optimized in that space. So we would start with that kind of Pro V1 and seeing what it does. Like, same sort of thing. What's the launch do? What's the spin do? What's the apex height? How's it feel? And then from there, we can kind of figure out, hey, if this player is struggling with their driver or struggling with their irons or struggling with their wedges with, let's say, for example, it's not enough spin and we need the ball to spin more and to fly higher, then we would say, hey, Pro V1X is that golf ball that's going to help us maintain that spin and get the height up. So I guess from there, that's kind of where we would go. And the opposite would be for that player that already hits it too high and creates too much spin. Then we would say, hey, let's try AVX. That's a golf ball for us that will fly a little bit lower and spin a little bit less. And the feel of AVX is a little bit softer. So for some players is a good thing. We've got our fourth premium golf ball that we carry as well, which is Pro V1X Left Dash, which is a high flighting product like Pro V1X, but will spin less than the normal Pro V1X. And it's a golf ball, I think, that's not as commonly used as Pro V1 or Pro V1X, but for some players it works really well. That would be the sort of process of that fitting. We typically have a green to tee approach with that space of what we would do, and we would start with, okay, what does it feel like off the putter? What does it feel like with a wedge around the greens? And then what does it feel like with the 7-iron? And what does that sort of lead us towards which ball? I know me personally, I play golf where the greens get pretty hard, pretty fast, and being able to stop it as quickly as I can is an absolute premium. So I play Pro V1X for that reason. I guess it depends on the player, but if you were trying to make the ball fly slightly higher or slightly lower, or you wanted to take some spin away from a particular shot in your game, then it's definitely one to jump onto a video call, which is what we do in terms of golf ball consultations or a golf ball fitting face to face.
So is that something then that you would potentially change for a different golf course? If you were playing on hard and fast greens, would you move across to a Pro V1X specifically for that round and maybe then come back to the Pro V1, or you'd more recommend, your ball have a consistent type of ball that you use and just adjust other parts of your game?
Yeah, I'd definitely say keep it consistent depending on where you go. I wouldn't recommend changing the golf ball. I would say that through that testing process, you can test different environments, see what it's like, I guess, on firm and fast and on sort of slightly softer conditions. But the ball will feel different if you were to sort of change relative to the conditions that you're playing in. So I think that can potentially do more bad than good, as opposed to you wanting the ball to fly or spin a little bit more in those firmer conditions. So you're changing for that reason. I think that the feel of the golf ball and just the overall performance being different, I wouldn't think that would have enough of an advantage to change for that reason. I think if you find a golf ball that's working for your game and it's doing what you want it to do, then I'd be sticking with it. I mean, definitely one thing that we see on the fitting tee is somebody will say, I play Pro V1, but you sort of look at their bag and they might have 3 or 4 different golf balls in there. And obviously it is what it is. It's the reality of what we do. But I think the more we can educate people to say, hey, if you can just play the same ball every time you go out there and play golf, whether it's Pro V1, whether it's Tour Soft, whether it's True Feel, whether it's Pro V1X, whatever it is, if you can play that ball consistently, it's gonna mean that you're eliminating one other thing out there on the golf course, which can only be a good thing. It's hard enough as it is.
And I guess the quality of ball, playing with a newer ball rather than an older ball, is a definite advantage as well. In playing partners, I've seen some of the balls that they pull out of their bag at different times, and bit of a raised eyebrow moment.
Definitely. Yeah, it definitely gets to a point in time where, if it's enough trees, it's going to start to decrease in performance. So, Yeah, I wouldn't say that there's a magical number for how many holes a golf ball is going to be durable for, but definitely it gets to a point in time where if it's had enough scuff marks on there, then you're going to start to see some inconsistencies. And yeah, I mean, as I said, golf's hard enough as it is, so if you can try to eliminate the inconsistencies, then yeah, would recommend it.
One of the pilgrims of the show, Andy Walker, who I know you know, shall remain unnamed for the purposes of this story, but he plays exclusively Pro V1s. So all of the balls that he finds in the lake or in the trees that are not Pro V1s, he throws back and only keeps the Pro V1s that he finds. He's never bought a ball in his life, by the way, but he just searches around. So that's another story. So I'm currently playing one of the balls that you haven't named because it's not a Titleist ball. It's a TaylorMade TP5X. And I feel as though our relationship, which has been going on for quite some time, is going to come to an end in the not too distant future. I did get some Pro V1Xs recently because I thought I was going to move in that direction because I thought I wanted a bit more spin. But what I found, I used them for a round and I found that they just ballooned on me, got really high, really fast, and I was losing a bit of distance. So is that, it seems to me like that's indicating that there's too much spin. Is that potentially what is at play there?
By the sounds of it, yeah. I mean, if you're going into something that you're seeing the ball fly too high and all of a sudden when you're hitting shots into the wind, or if just generally speaking, you see the ball become a little bit floaty, it's a pretty good indicator that there is a little bit too much spin there. I mean, to be able to, I guess, validate that, we would need to be on the fitting tee with a track band to be able to see what it's doing. But yeah, I would say the first thing for you to do would be to try Pro V1, see what it does. It sounds like if you're seeing that, then the logical thing would be to test that golf ball. It's yeah, as I said before, Pro V1X will fly higher and spin more, and it's so player dependent as to what's going to work best for each player. And I think if you're seeing that, the very logical thing to do would be to when you next play golf, try Pro V1 and see what it does.
Might have to give that a go.
Sounds like you might need to.
So then, what about?
I might shoot 2 under if I use some Pro V1s. You never know.
You could do. Well, I mean that's why I'm not going to change from a Pro V1. I mean, why change something that's working?
Why change?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So with putting then Jason, the putting fitting, what's involved with a putter fit? Because obviously there are different types of putters. I mean, I use a broomstick, so I'm not sure if that's in the Scotty Cameron range, but yeah. So what are you looking for when it comes to sort of fitting a player for a putter?
Yeah. So with putters, I mean, we sort of look at it more as putter selecting as opposed to fitting. There's no real TrackMan type thing that we use when we're doing putter selecting, because it comes down to a lot of the players' visual preferences and what they physically like the shape of. A lot of the times, if we say to a player, hey, look, try this, I think it's going to work well, and they just don't like the shape at all, a lot of the times it's not going to give a lot of confidence. Confidence is everything with putting. So you sort of, what we would normally do is we would take out the whole line of our special select and phantom putters, and we would have them all sitting there lined up and say, hey, what 3 putters first catch your eye? Like what putters do you kind of gravitate towards visually? And then from there, we would get them to hit some putts and then see what helps them start the ball online most often. We'll definitely look at the length of the putter, because that will often dictate where their eyes sit in terms of being on top of the ball or slightly inside the ball, because that will be a part of it to sort of, I guess, be the fitting side of things. But in terms of me saying to you, hey, you should be playing a mallet style putter or a blade style putter, I think it's not as much about that as opposed to, hey, what helps you start the ball on, what visually gives confidence to you at address. And then from there, we can say, hey, what length of putter helps you set up the most effectively.
I did also hear somewhere that most golfers have a putter that's too long for them, which has a tendency to impact where their eye line is, and they should be, maybe having a putter a couple of centimeters shorter.
Yeah, definitely see that. Yeah. the same sort of principle with the long game, in the sense of if you have the wrong length of golf club in your hands, with putting, your iron's not going to be great, so it's going to be difficult for you to start the ball on line, and B, you're probably going to struggle to hit the center of the face, and when you're not hitting the center of the face with any club, it's difficult to control speed and it's difficult to control direction. So it's one that definitely see players turn up to the fittings with putters that are too long for them. And I wouldn't say that everybody should go and knock 2 centimeters, 3 centimeters off their putter, but definitely one that's hey, if you're finding that you're struggling to start the ball online, it could be one to try something new and see what it does.
Yeah, it was interesting because I had my broomy was I had it cut down when they changed the rules from pivoting and having it anchored to your chest. I cut it down probably 6 inches, and I found that I really struggled with it. Of having a shorter putter. So about 12 months ago, I went and put that 6 inches back on the putter, and since then, and hold it just off my chest, so it's not anchored, and that's just worked wonders for me.
Wow, there you go. I like it. I haven't heard that one before. Adding length back onto the broomstick putter, and it's very success. Cool. I like it.
It's nearly taller than him.
It's not my longest club in the bag. It's not the longest club in the bag.
We've had some debates about whether or not broomies should be legal at all. I'm interested in your views, Jace. Is there a place in the game for the broomstick putter, or is it a blight? Is it a blight on the game?
I mean, I'll leave that down to the R&A and the decisions that they make in terms of whether or not it should or shouldn't be allowed. But you definitely see some guys be successful with it. I mean, you see Adam Scott. I mean, I guess he's one that he definitely has days where he putts well, and I know I've seen Bullseye Taurus recently go to that kind of longer putter shape. It's definitely a trend that I wouldn't say necessarily broomsticks, but longer putters. I mean, we've just bought in a 38-inch counterbalance putter that's just come into the Phantom range. So I think that's a trend that they're seeing on tour, that putters are getting slightly longer and they're seeing more performance in that sort of shape. But in terms of whether they should or shouldn't be allowed to use broomstick putters, I'll leave that one to the R&A.
Maybe a different question then. Is it possible to look cool on the golf course with a broomstick putter?
I feel like I know where that question's directed.
Adam Scott looks all right, doesn't he?
I think
he goes good.
Scotty
his game.
Scotty looks fantastic, and just until he gets to the green and pulls that thing out of the bag, and then it goes downhill. Anyway, Scotty, we love you. He's a friend of the show. We love Adam Scott. Huge supporter of the Missing Links Golf Show. But anyway, I have completely derailed us, and I can't even remember where that conversation was going. So my apologies, gentlemen, for that. But I was going to ask, you're talking about shortening putter lengths. What's the difference between actually shortening the shaft versus just gripping down on the shaft if your putter's a bit too long for you?
What's the difference? I guess the difference would, I mean, that's another good question. I guess I know shortening the putter, what we would normally do in terms of with any club to maintain the swing weight is we would actually add weight to the head of the putter to counteract the length that we're taking off. So typically, the shorter the putter, the heavier you would make the head, and the longer the putter, the lighter you would make the head. So I guess if you were just gripping down, potentially the head could become a little bit light.
Makes sense.
As opposed to just taking length off. And if we took length off, we'd look to add head weight to counteract the length that we've taken off. So I guess that potentially could be the only issue, is the putter head might feel light. But who knows? Maybe if you grip down on a longer putter, you'll hold more putts. It's hard to actually have an answer, but I think that would be the downside of gripping down, as opposed to actually physically making the putter shorter.
At the moment, after my last round, I'm willing to try anything because nothing was dropping.
The broomy, that's what you need to try.
I'm going to make a major admission here. Driving home from the course on Saturday, I even thought about whether or not I should try.
Good one.
Yeah.
I'm going to work on that.
Yeah. Let's just
Run with it. I like it.
Let's just hope we don't have a repeat. It was dark. There were dark times. But that's a topic for the next episode, not tonight. Andy Walker, what other kind of curly ones have you got for Jason whilst we've got him?
I'm that pretty much covered what I had. I mean, as I sort of said earlier, I mean, I really enjoyed the process of going through a club fitting. Some of the things I learned about my own swing and also swing speed, I guess, is something that because I've got a Garmin G80 that I sort of launch monitor that I have done a little bit of sort of swing speed training with, but I actually found that the TrackMan data it actually showed a higher swing speed than what the Garmin G80 did. So yeah, I think that probably just comes back to quality of launch monitor and quality of the data that you're getting in a club fitting rather than, getting something that's, I mean, look, the G80 was, I think it was $650, $700, whereas you're looking at a TrackMan that's like, 20,000 or more. So, a bit of a difference in that technology.
Yeah, definitely see some players that will turn up and they have, I guess, I mean, like you say, for an at-home setup, I mean, those sorts of devices are fantastic. They definitely do a pretty cool job. But you do see sometimes they'll turn up and they'll say, hey, I'm sort of seeing X, Y, Z of this at home, and sometimes we see something slightly different, like you said. So yeah, being able to test on a TrackMan, we're fortunate to use that every day. It's very, very good system. Like you say, they're expensive.
They are expensive, and we're probably not going to invest in one of those for the Missing Links Golf Show High Performance Centres, Central West or Central Coast. I do have another question for you, though, before we wrap up, and that is, have you ever come across a player that you could not fit?
Yes. Yeah, there is times where we'll go through a fitting and it could be for a variety of reasons as to, hey, maybe they're going through a swing change with their coach and maybe all of a sudden, hey, you know what, maybe it's not the right time to go through this process and, hey, why don't we put a plan together that when you and your coach feel like that you're sort of down the right pathway that you're hey, we'll revisit. There's definitely times we'll go through that process, and there's sometimes we'll go through a thing and say, hey, you know what, you've got a driver that's 1 generation old or 2 generations old, whatever it may be, and it's still working really well. And hey, you know what, like we didn't see enough of a change here to merit going into that. So yeah, sometimes I mean the one thing that I feel like myself and all Titleist fitters do is we try to be as honest and transparent as we can on the fitting tee. And sometimes if the product that we're testing is the same or we didn't see any improvements, then we would say, hey, you know what, maybe it's not time to change. Maybe you just keep what you got. And yeah, in terms of sometimes we see it's a swing mechanics thing. We've got to work through that with their golf coach or work through that with them and say, hey, you know what, why don't we see what happens when we come back with this? And yeah, it's a balance. You're trying to obviously help them as best you possibly can. But at the end of the day, we're trying to give them the best golf clubs for their game as opposed to necessarily say, hey, we need to completely rebuild your golf swing type thing.
We have played a few rounds of golf with one of our pilgrims. By the way, our pilgrims are our listeners. Jason, you may not be aware,
I picked up on that one.
We are on a golfing pilgrimage to better golf. That's the gist of the show. So one of our pilgrims, love him, great guy, has unfortunately been for 3 separate fittings with 3 separate fitters, all of whom have come back with the same message, which is, I'm very sorry, but I can't fit your swing.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, can't fit your swing. That's an interesting one. I mean, we can change quite a bit of stuff in 2024 with golf clubs, so it'd be interesting to see what his moves like. I'm assuming he must be. What's he typically seeing out in the golf course? How well do you know him in that space?
Oh, I do know him quite well. Played a lot of golf with the man.
Okay.
He's
what
actually,
do you normally see him do?
He's actually not a bad golfer. He plays off at the moment. I think he's playing off about 12 or 13. So you can get the ball around the course. His miss would be a slappy cut, generally.
Okay.
Yep. The
It goes just to the right,
Yep.
typically.
Yep. So the golf club kind of comes back outside, straight up, and then around flat, and then big up over the top and cuts down. There's quite a few right angles in the swing. It's really it's fun to watch. Hopefully he's not listening to this episode because that's going to really upset him.
I mean, in terms of unfittable golf swings, I mean, generally speaking, if the ball's going to the right, we'd look at length and lie to see if there's something there that we can help with, and then obviously shaft weight and flex can influence the slappiness or making the strike better. It's hard to say. I mean, obviously, if he's been through 3 fitters, I mean, I'm happy to put my hand up and be number 4 and see if I can change that. But
I'd love. I reckon we could do an episode on that. Like, video that one for YouTube. That'd be outstanding. That'd be a lot of fun. And we do want to look after our pilgrims. So we mean that with with love in our hearts when we share his travails on the fitting tee, and hope that you could potentially help. No, that's absolutely gold.
More than happy to try to help, and see if we have anything that can help him out. Yeah,
that's brilliant. Jason, before we wrap up, how can people find you if they're interested in exploring a Titleist fitting with you, assuming that they're in the right part of the world to be able to do that? But what's the best way of either getting in contact with you or Titleist, or sort of learning a little bit more about the fitting process?
Yeah, sure. So there's myself and there's 2 other fitters that we all fit full time in New South Wales. So there's myself that's more north. There's another fitter that lives more central in Sydney, and there's another fitter that lives in Picton, which is a little further south. So we sort of cover all 3 bases in that space. And we have public access fitting days. Like Andy went to Thornley Golf Centre. I was at one at Baddo Bay Golf Driving Range today. And then we're at Moore Park. We're at Twin Creeks. We're at Linwood. We're at about 8 to 10 different public access facilities that we're trying to increase throughout the year. But it's one that you would go into the Titleist website, go into the fitting page that we have there under golf clubs, and then see when the next available public access fitting date is. We run a lot of private events being just events that we would run through a golf club that the members can get access to, that they would book in, that does not get displayed on the Titleist website.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always one that we're trying to make more public access days, but it's one that we're challenged to, that there's not a whole heap of driving ranges in Sydney to be able to get access to be able to do stuff like that. But I would say the best way to I'll pass on my email to you guys, so that anybody that's listening to the podcast, or anybody that has questions for you guys that want to either just generally ask a question or want to book into a fitting, that they can get in contact with me, and I can definitely point them in the right direction. If they live further south of Sydney or in the interstate, I can definitely point them in the right direction.
No, that's awesome, and we'll share that in the show notes. We'll also share that via the socials as well, which I think would be amazing because, like me, I think there's a lot of people out there that go, maybe there's parts of my bag I'm happy with, there's parts of my bag that I'm not happy with. I might want to look at a few elements, and I know for me, definitely it's around wedges and putter. Interested in your comments on the ball. I might sort myself out a few Pro V1s and give them a bit of a test drive and see if that works out. Because I think I like the feel of the Pro V1. I use the RCT balls in the net in the high performance center here with the Garmin R10, and I like the feel of them a lot more than TP5X, which I find a little bit hard off the club. So, but like I say, the Pro V1X just ballooned a little bit more, so kind of not necessarily the right answer. But anyway, I'm sure there's one in there somewhere. I have no doubt. Any last sort of words of wisdom on equipment maintenance, equipment, in general for our pilgrims?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that I learned through an actual live test that we saw recently on some TrackMan stuff is clean your grooves with your wedges. It's amazing how debris and dirt and grit in between your grooves of your wedges influences the amount of control that you have when you're hitting shots.
So
bit of
what
a
you're
test that
saying?
we
You're saying clean them every 5 or 6 rounds?
something like that. Yeah, that'll work. That'll work fine. No, definitely the upkeep on equipment would be just clean your grooves is often, or yeah, after you hit each shot. I mean, I'm put my hand up and say I'm guilty at times, but it's amazing to see the different launch and spin characteristics of clean, fresh grooves versus dirt in between them, and how the ball will go significantly higher off the face with dirt in between your grooves because it has nothing to grip to, and you won't carry the ball as far, and it'll be very difficult to control your carry distances. So, clean your grooves, and definitely if you have wedges that are as old as what you said yours are, definitely come for a wedge fitting and see if we can make them better.
You won't make them any worse. I'll give you the tip. That is gold. Andy Walker, any final questions before we let Jason go about his business?
Yeah, just wanted to thank Jason, A, for coming on the show, but B, for the fitting. And as I said, it was a great experience. Recommend it to anyone. So yeah, definitely get in touch with Jason and get to one of the fitting events, whether it sort of be at a local club that the Titleists are at, or at one of the public fitting days. It's well worth it.
Appreciate it. Yeah, no, glad we could help out. And anybody happens to want to test out any gear, then happy to help out and point them in the right direction.
No, that's absolutely brilliant. We thoroughly appreciate your time, and we now will continue to refer to ourselves as the official podcast of Titleist. So it's great to firm up that relationship. But no, thank you so much for coming on the show. Titleist is our preferred equipment supplier in the game of golf. So I'll probably need to get some of it in my bag at some point.
Start with the Pro V1s.
Yeah, we'll start small. We'll work our way up. That's totally fine. But no, we do appreciate it. I've got no doubt that there'll be questions that will flow through. So we look forward to potentially getting you back at a future date and maybe getting into some of those other details in a little bit more depth. But Jason Butt from Titleist, thank you so much for joining us on the Missing Links Golf Show and being a part of the pilgrimage.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me, and talk soon.
Andy Walker, what a chat that was. What a legend of a human Jason Butt is.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had so much fun during the fitting. I can't tell you how much value I get from it. I know I've said it a few times now, but just the, I've got to at some stage change my irons from the AP2s. I've got to some stage get new wedges. I mean, what he's talking about with making sure that your grooves are clean, but also making sure that your grooves are working in your wedges. That's, I've been putting a bit of time into my short game over the last couple of years, and I can definitely see where in my groove. So I may even change my wedges before I change the AP2s. But certainly from, any time I go to, get new clubs, there's no way I would buy new clubs now without a fitting. Like after going through that process, and I've never been fit before. Like, we've discovered that, we've discussed that on the show before, but that's my first time, and it was such a great experience that there's no way that I would go and buy more, new clubs without going through that process again.
100%. And a fitting with a professional fitter as well is completely different to going to a golf store and just hitting a few in a net. It's the level of knowledge that the person's got to be able to do all the matchups properly. And, and then invariably you end up getting clubs built for you with the right shafts, the right lengths of shafts, the right heads, and all of those setups, which it is super important. So, no, like you, I agree. There's not a chance I would go and buy clubs off the shelf now. Because I just know the difference and how subtle differences in the setup of the club actually really works against the things that you do in your swing, and can be very, very unsuitable. So it's absolutely essential.
Yeah, Yeah, and listening to now a number of different commentators, whether it be on podcasts or in the courses that I've bought, just about all of them, or without question, say you need to get fit for your clubs. In today's day and age, you just need to go and get fit.
Yeah, it was interesting actually when the one of the things that really pushed me in the direction of getting a fitting done was. I was playing a Pro-Am event for one of the qualifiers for the New South Wales Men's Open. And the pro that we were matched up with, we were hitting, halfway around the course and having a good chat. He was a really nice guy, and he was a small guy. He was shorter than I am, and you wouldn't think that he'd be a big hitter of the ball, but geez, he was pumping it out there. And that's what I said to him. I said, mate, in your opinion, obviously we played about 15 holes now, so you've seen my swing. I'm umming and ahhing. Do I go and invest in lessons, or do I invest in getting properly fit clubs, because I've never done that before? And I was expecting that he was going to say, oh, no, go and get lessons and do that, because that's what generally the way that people answer. But he said, he said, actually, your swing's not bad. Obviously you'll benefit from lessons. Everyone does. But if you haven't got fitted equipment, that's going to give you the biggest benefit faster. And you should absolutely do that. So, which I didn't expect to be the answer, but he was absolutely right. Like the fitting and getting fitted clubs, driver and irons, I think I dropped a couple of shots off my handicap without making any swing changes, just because I had something that suited my game.
Yeah. And that in itself is a great investment.
Absolutely. So I'm all for it. The other thing, hot off the press, Andy Walker, hot off the press, in the time between we've hung up the phone from Jason and now to record this outro to the interview, which in the magic of podcasting world seems like no time has elapsed whatsoever. I assure you, pilgrims, that is not the case. I have ordered a box of Pro V1s.
Oh, nice. Yep. And look, I think you'll see a huge difference in your game. I mean, I've used, as I said, Pro V1s. We covered it in the interview for probably the last 5 years. I won't say always, because you'll pick me up on that one.
On the infamous Z Star era.
Yeah, the Z Star. Yep. It was about the equivalent of my game, I must admit, at the time. So I had a Z Star in my game, but. That's another story. Yeah, but the Pro V1s, as soon as I made the switch, I noticed that the ball flew further. I gained about half a club.
That's interesting.
But the consistency of the ball strike and the consistency of the ball fly was chalk and cheese. As soon as I hit a Pro V1, I just went, no, I'm not using the Z Star anymore. I'm staying with the Pro V1s.
Yeah, it's interesting because I started using the TP5X TaylorMade, and the only reason why I started doing that is because I had a bag full of TaylorMade clubs. Yeah, so I thought that there might have been some kind of wisdom in matching the ball to the clubs, with the expectation that the company making all of that equipment was probably making things to be complementary, right?
Yeah, I can see the logic behind it, but
I don't know if there's any evidence to support it. I really don't.
No,
but that was why I went down that path. And the problem with it is that, you win prize money in Saturday comps at the club, and sort of win balls and all those sorts of things, and you cash them in for more of the same of what you've got. And I've never been in a situation where I've kind of come to the end of the stash to be ordering something to change over. So it's always felt sort of wasteful, because I know that as soon as the Pro V1s turn up, I'll stop using whatever TP5Xs I've got left, because you're not going to kind of go through the old stock before you get to the new stuff.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. 100%. And that's exactly what I did when I started using the Pro V1s. I still may have in the garage somewhere in a box, maybe half a dozen or more of the Z Stars. I reckon there's somewhere there in the garage.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've got a box or two of TP5s out in the garage. So who knows? Who knows? There could be a Pilgrims giveaway happening at some point.
There's got to be juniors at your local club, hasn't there, that could benefit from a couple of?
Oh yeah. Probably there is. It's not a bad idea. I mean, I wouldn't want to use them as practice balls though if I was going to go out and use Pro V1s in games, because then you've got different feels. And I think we covered that in the conversation with Jason as well. So I don't know, but I will for now keep them on hand just in case I don't get on well with the Pro V1. I didn't get on well with the Pro V1X, but I think that's because, as we discussed with Jace, it spins too much. So that's why I was having that ballooning issue and losing a bit of distance. So hopefully the Pro V1 doesn't have that, but has all the other benefits of the softer feel and the better flight path and better control around the greens.
Yeah. And look, I'm sure you will. Yeah, of course. Yeah, as I said, I've been a fan for a very long time of the Pro V1s.
Another thing I think I mentioned to you before was interesting in practicing my putting on the putting mat. I don't know if this is psychological and therefore me making it happen. It could be. I'm not ruling that out. But when I hit the Pro V1, I'm finding that the putt rolls straighter than the TP5. The TP5, I'm finding wobbling offline.
Yeah, right.
So
I think you'll find the Pro V1's probably a bit rounder than the TP5X.
They're a bit egg-shaped. So look like a miniature rugby ball. So anyway, they don't. Okay.
Breaking news here on the Missing Links.
For the wonderful people at TaylorMade, we love your work. I have played your ball for, I would say, 5 years or so. And this is an experimental change. I'm doing it for the Pilgrims. I'm testing some equipment to see if there is a difference. And if there is, I will report back. So this is not about brand loyalties or anything like that. So
does Rory use the TP5X?
Yes, he does. He used to use the TP5, and I remember there was probably about 2 years ago now, there was an article that came out where he found the TP5 was really inconsistent in ball flight and distance. And he actually really was turning off it, but he went to the TP5X, and that apparently it sorted it all out for him. He was happy. I think they've done something similar with to Titleist with what Jason was talking about with sort of flipping the specs of what was the X and the non-X in the old model. It's reversed with the spin characteristics, I believe.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot in all of that, but no, it's exciting. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. No, I think you'll get a lot out of it. So I'll look forward to hearing how you go with them. So do I.
When I next get out on the course, which could be a week or two away yet, we'll see how that transpires.
I'm a few days away from my first foray into senior amateur golf, so I'm really pumped about that, and I'm sure that the Pilgrims will hear the very detailed explanation of how I go, either next episode or the episode after.
Interestingly, I think on our release schedule that this podcast will come out right about the time that you're hopping into the car to drive to the course for this event.
Yes,
so
probably.
The Pilgrims potentially will be listening to this in real time whilst you're on the course.
Yeah, potentially. So it is next Monday. So we normally drop an episode on a Monday morning. So it's a bit of an early start for me. I reckon I was only thinking about it the other day. I reckon it's probably before 6. I reckon I'm going to jump in the car and start driving. I am traveling. I think I mentioned I'm traveling with David McClellan. So
yes.
Not sure if he's driving or I'm driving. So yeah, we'll have a good yak on the way down there.
Well, you might not, because you might be listening to this episode.
Maybe.
You never know.
Yeah.
Oh, that's exciting. But no, fantastic chat. Huge thank you to Jason. We will drop his contact details in the show notes for this episode. But I think the easiest thing to do for anyone that's interested in arranging a club fitting is to jump on the Titleist website. There is a button you can click which says, conveniently enough, fittings. So it's a bit of a giveaway. But jump on there. You can organise that. You can find out when the nearest one is in your area, or you can even get in contact directly with the fitters and actually try and book something in if you want to do something more individually.
And that's how I did it. I did it through the Titleist website. So I jumped on. At that stage, I didn't know Jason. I knew of him. I knew he was the guy to go to. And yeah, it just under his name, it just it showed what public fittings he had available. And when Thornley popped up, I went, yep, that's me. So yeah, I did it through the Titleist website. It's really easy to do.
Yes, and we in the very near future will be organising a meeting with Jason to go through wedges, putters, and all sorts of other wonderful stuff. So thoroughly look forward to that. Andy Walker, anything else that you'd like to cover in the wrap up to this very detailed and golf nerdy episode?
No, I think that covers it. Just a great experience, great new clubs. Did I mention I shot 2 under first time I played with them in a comp?
I don't think so. I might have to go back through previous episodes and see if there's been any references to that. So yeah, nothing springs to mind. Nothing that I can recall. But nevertheless,
might have to mention it next episode.
You never know. You might be talking about a 3 under. Who knows?
Well, that is true. Who knows? See how we go.
Don't rest on your laurels. But Pilgrims, if you would like to get in touch, please do. Please do. We've actually had some really nice messages floating through from various parts of the world, which we won't share now. We'll share in Voice of the Pilgrims in a future episode. But Andy Walker, we're now live, or not live, we're streamed into 21 countries around this fair globe of ours.
Yes.
I find that quite amazing. In particular, the one that probably blows me away is one of our recent additions, and that is Iceland.
Yes.
Reykjavik in Iceland.
Now, I didn't realise that they played golf in Iceland, but apparently someone there listens to our podcast.
I didn't know much about it. I do know that Icelandic cricket is one of the best follows that you can have on Twitter because they relentlessly troll many of the other major sporting nations and certainly take a liking to baseball. So get out there and check that out. So I don't know, maybe Icelandic golf is of a similar tilt, but we certainly look forward to hearing more from our pilgrims in Iceland. We've also picked up Spain over the last week. So hola to John Rahm and your fellow Spaniards who are obviously listening in. Great to have you on board the pilgrimage. But there's it's remarkable. There's so much growth out there. I find it incredible that there's people in 21 countries around the world that
want to listen to us.
Happy to listen to us bang on about ourselves playing very ordinary amateur golf. It's fantastic.
And it's really interesting because I recently went and had visited my accountant. I was just getting some sort of tax planning and stuff done. And I mentioned to my accountant that, we'd been doing a podcast for the last 6 months. And he said to me, "Oh, okay, that sounds really good. So do you have to put a lot of preparation time in, do a lot of research?" And
don't spoil the magic.
Oh, no, not really.
We
just
do
rock up and have a chat between two mates.
We do.
I mean, look, we have done a lot of reading, and we have, obviously, bought courses and all the rest. So there is, I guess, progress there, but it's not
work. It's not work when it's fun.
No,
this is the thing. I think we enjoy it. It is a lot of fun. It's a good chance to just sit down and bang on about golf and various other things. And in many ways, what seems to be resonating with a lot of the pilgrims is actually a bit about the golf, but a bit about other stuff that's off the course and how transferable it all is. So we'll continue to dive into some of those topics. Yes, but sure. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that's it for this episode. You can find us in a variety of places. You can find us on Twitter, TML Golf Show, or X, I should say. You can find us on Insta, Missing Links Golf. You can find us on Facebook, The Missing Links Golf Show. You can email us directly, themissinglinksgolfshow@gmail.com. You can even, really conveniently, not do any of those things, click the send fan mail little link on the show notes of the podcast, and that will send a text message straight through to our account, and we'll get back to you very, very quickly. We do respond to everything when it comes through because we absolutely love hearing from the pilgrims. And if you must, look, it's okay if you want to jump on and give us a 5-star review or recommend us to a friend. There's nothing wrong with that. But Andy Walker, all that said, famous last words.
Rock out, pilgrims.
You glitched a bit, but ladies and gentlemen, I think you meant rock out, pilgrims.